We have never fully lived up to the founding principles of this nation, to state the obvious, that all people are created equal and have a right to be treated equally throughout their lives. And it's time to act now, not only because it's the right thing to do, but because if we do, we'll all be better off for it. I ran for president because I believe we're in a battle for the soul of this nation. And the simple truth is, our soul will be troubled as long as systemic racism is allowed to persist. We are not just a nation morally deprived because of systemic racism. We're also less prosperous. We're less successful. We're less secure.
President Biden signed 4 executive orders yesterday aimed at addressing racial equity, a campaign promise he made during last summer's protests in response to the killing of George Floyd. The orders aim to strengthen anti-discrimination housing policies, get rid of new Justice Department contracts with private prisons, increase the sovereignty of Native American tribes, and combat violence and xenophobia against Asian American and Pacific Islanders. Joining us now, White House Senior Advisor and Director of the Office of Public Engagement, Cedric Richmond. Good to have you on the show. Tell us what these orders mean. Are they just the beginning for this administration as it pertains to trying to achieve racial equity in this country?
Absolutely, Micah. They're just the beginning. And if we go back to day one, he signed an executive order to create and demand racial equity through a whole of government approach, which will be led by Ambassador Susan Rice, which will make sure that we root out systemic racism throughout government. And so you double that with the actions he took yesterday to make sure, one, that we stop contracting with federal prisons, two, that we root out racism and housing policy, because we know that true racial equity is not just criminal justice reform, it's economic prosperity as well. And so home ownership is a big part of that. He also signed an executive order on xenophobia and one respecting nation-to-nation status with our Native Americans. So, look, I think more than anything, it was President Biden saying, this is what I said on the campaign trail. This is what I'm doing and what I'm saying as president. And I am serious about racial equity in this country. So let's get on with it. And he signaled that there's more to come.
Cedric Richmond is Al Sharpton. One of the things that I wanted to ask, I think this is a deposit, certainly not paid in full, as you say, this is a beginning. But where do we also see the White House lean in on some of the legislative part? Because executive orders are good, but they're limited, and they can be undone by the next president if that is not Joe Biden. I think he has set a good tone. He's met with the 7 leading civil rights groups, even as a president-elect. I've never seen a president do that before they were inaugurated. And he talked about his meeting that you and I were in with George Floyd's family. So the tone is a lot are different than the 4 years preceding him. But where do we go to legislation what could make this more permanent? You were a prominent member of the House. I don't have to tell you that.
Look, Reverend Al, you're right as usual. And so if you look back at his speech yesterday, he called on us to restore and renew the Voting Rights Act, the John Lewis piece of legislation that would strengthen voter protections around this country. If you look at his American Rescue Plan, which we desperately need Congress to pass, that has racial equity embedded throughout. So whether it's the increasing the earned income tax credit or increasing the child tax credit, which would lift families out of poverty, making it refundable, that would be a big down payment on racial equity this year. And so everything you see this administration do, it will be done through a lens of equity. And so we know that it's going to take partners in the House and the Senate. But I think that part of the president's speech yesterday was to ask for willing partners to let them know and to signal them that we're coming with an ambitious agenda. So Voting Rights Act and the American Rescue Plan are 2 pieces of legislation that we're critically and excited about pushing. But we need the American Rescue Plan now. Families are hurting, black, white, rural, suburban, urban, it doesn't matter. So you're right, Ref.
Hey, thanks so much for watching our YouTube channel. You can follow up on today's top stories and breaking news, or catch up on your favorite MSNBC shows all in one place. Download the NBC News app today.